Would you spend the night where people claim to see ghosts, hear footsteps in empty hallways, and feel the icy grip of something that isn't there? These 15 places across America aren't just haunted by rumors, they're haunted by history. From abandoned asylums to legendary hotels, each place on this list holds terrifying stories of murder, tragedy, and the unexplained. Real eyewitness accounts, real locations, and for some real consequences. Hit that like button if you dare, and subscribe for more dark and haunted journeys. Now, let's take our first step into the unknown. Number 1. The Myrtles Plantation, Street Francisville, Louisiana. In the heart of Louisiana, the Myrtles Plantation stands as one of the most haunted homes in America. Built in 1796, this historic mansion is known for its eerie stories of tragedy and ghostly encounters. The most famous tale is that of Chloe, an enslaved woman who poisoned the family's food in a desperate attempt to win favor. The plan tragically resulted in the deaths of 2 children and their mother. Chloe was hanged by fellow slaves, and today, visitors claim to see her ghost, wearing a green turban, wandering the plantation. But Chloe isn't the only spirit haunting the Myrtles. Guests have reported hearing footsteps, the sound of the piano playing on its own, and mysterious handprints appearing on mirrors, believed to be from the Woodruff children who died in the poisonings. There's also the story of William Winter, who was shot on the front porch in 1871 and staggered inside, dying on the 17th step of the staircase. Some guests claim to hear his ghostly footsteps climbing the stairs, even though no one is there. The Myrtles Plantation is more than just a beautiful southern estate. It's a place where the past and the supernatural seem to linger in the air, waiting for the next visitor to witness the spirits of its haunted history. Number 2. Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In the heart of Philadelphia stands Eastern State Penitentiary, a place where history, pain, and supernatural legends intertwine. Built in 1829, it was the first prison to implement solitary confinement as a form of punishment. This experiment led to madness for many inmates, some of whom never left, even in death. Today, the penitentiary is a haunting ruin, where visitors report hearing footsteps in the dark halls, whispers in empty cells, and mysterious shadows moving along the walls. One of the most famous ghostly sites is Cell Block 12, where people say the spirits of past prisoners linger. But the most chilling tale involves Cell 4, where one visitor felt a powerful force grip them and saw glowing eyes watching from the dark. Others have experienced cold spots and strange noises, especially in the deepest parts of prison. Eastern State Penitentiary is now a museum, but for those who enter, it's hard to escape the feeling that the souls of those who endured such isolation still haunt these ancient stone walls. Number 3. The Queen Mary, Long Beach, California. Docked in Long Beach, California, the RMS Queen Mary is more than just a historic ocean liner. It's known as one of the most haunted ships in the world. Launched in 1936, the Queen Mary sailed as a luxury cruise ship and a World War II troop carrier. Over the decades, the ship saw over 50 deaths on board, from crew members crushed in the engine room to passengers who mysteriously drowned. Today, the Queen Mary is permanently docked, but reports of ghostly activity haven't stopped. Visitors claim to hear unexplained knocking, running footsteps in empty hallways, and the voices of children echoing from the now-drained swimming pool. The most haunted area? The engine room, specifically door 13. It's where a crewman was crushed to death, and ever since, people have reported seeing his shadowy figure near the spot where he died. Guests have also seen a lady in white dancing alone in the ship's ballroom, and in Stateroom B340, one sealed off due to paranormal activity. Guests have witnessed flickering lights, faucets turning on by themselves, and bedsheets pulled away in the middle of the night. The Queen Mary now operates as a hotel and museum, but for many, it feels like something or someone never left the ship. Number 4. The Stanley Hotel, Estes Park, Colorado. In the quiet mountains of Estes Park, Colorado, sits the Stanley Hotel, a grand and elegant structure with a chilling reputation. Built in 1909, The hotel is famous not only for its luxury, but for the ghosts that seem to never check out. Most famously, it inspired Stephen King's novel The Shining after he spent one eerie night in room 217. Guests in that very room report flickering lights, unexplained movement, and the feeling of being watched. But the hauntings go beyond that room. The hotel's founder, Freelance Stanley, is said to appear in a concert hall, still watching over his creation. Guests have reported hearing music when no one is there, and even catching glimpses of shadowy figures in old photographs. Perhaps the creepiest are the sounds of children running and laughing in empty halls late at night, despite no children being checked in. Whether it's fiction or the supernatural, one thing is certain. The Stanley Hotel leaves its guests with more than just memories. It leaves questions that may never be answered. Number 5. Waverly Hills Sanatorium, Louisville, Kentucky. High on a hill in Louisville, Kentucky, sits Waverly Hills Sanatorium, a massive, Gothic structure once dedicated to treating tuberculosis patients in the early 1900s. But what began as a place of healing quickly became a place of death, and the echoes still linger. At the height of the tuberculosis outbreak, over 60,000 people died here. Treatments were primitive, and many patients suffered deeply, both physically and mentally. The energy left behind is still felt today. One of the most infamous areas is the Death Tunnel, a 500-foot underground chute used to discreetly transport bodies. Visitors have reported seeing shadows moving through the tunnel and hearing whispers in the pitch black. Room 502 is another hotspot. Legend says a nurse hanged herself there after learning she was pregnant and unmarried. A scandal at the time. Guests report strange voices, lights flickering, and an overwhelming sense of dread when entering that room. Even experienced ghost hunters have called Waverly one of the darkest places they've ever investigated. For many, it's not just haunted, it feels alive. Number 6. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, Weston, West Virginia. In the quiet town of Weston, West Virginia, stands a massive stone building with a name that still chills the spine, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Built in the mid-1800s, it was once a progressive institution, meant to care for the mentally ill, but over time, it became overcrowded, underfunded, and deeply tragic. At its worst, it held over 2,400 patients, some chained, some locked in dark rooms, many forgotten by society. The spirits left behind are said to be restless and angry. People have reported sudden cold spots, doors slamming shut on their own, and ghostly figures watching from the broken windows. Some say they've heard screaming echoing through the long-abandoned hallways. One of the most active areas is Ward F, where the most violent patients were kept. Visitors often hear growls, feel invisible hands grabbing at them, and sometimes even see shadows rush past. There's also the story of a patient named Ruth who despised men. It's said her spirit still targets male visitors, pushing or scratching them when they enter her former room. Paranormal investigators call this place one of the most haunted buildings in America, not because of any one ghost, but because of the overwhelming energy left behind by decades of suffering. The asylum may be closed, but what happened inside its walls still speaks in whispers, screams, and shadows. Number 7. The Whaley House, San Diego, California. In the heart of San Diego's old town stands a beautiful 2-story home with a grim reputation, the Whaley House. Built in 1857, it was once a symbol of status and prosperity. But behind its red brick walls lies a history soaked in tragedy. It was built by Thomas Whaley on land that had once been the site of public executions. One of those executed, a man named Yankee Jim Robinson, was hanged there, and many believe his spirit never left. Soon after the Whaley family moved in, they began to report hearing heavy boots stomping through the halls. Even today, guests claim to hear the same slow, deliberate steps, but when they turn to look, no one is there. The family itself was struck by multiple tragedies. The suicide of Violet Whaley, Thomas's daughter, and the early deaths of several family members. Some visitors say they've seen Violet's sad figure wandering upstairs, dressed in a long gown, eyes vacant with sorrow. The home has been investigated countless times. with reports of doors opening by themselves, cold spots in warm rooms, and the smell of cigar smoke drifting through empty parlors. Despite its beauty and charm, the Whaley House remains one of the most paranormally active sites in America. Where history hasn't just been preserved, it refuses to move on. Number 8. The Crescent Hotel, Eureka Springs, Arkansas. High in the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas sits the Crescent Hotel, known today not only for its charm, but for the spirits said to roam its halls. Opened in 1886 as a luxury resort, it was later transformed into something much darker. In the 1930s, the hotel was purchased by Norman Baker, a con artist who claimed to be a doctor. He turned the building into a makeshift cancer hospital, offering cures that were nothing more than painful experiments. Many patients died under his care, and few families ever recovered their loved ones. It's said that the spirits of those victims never left. Guests often report seeing shadow figures, strange lights, and ghostly nurses pushing gurneys down the halls. Room 218 is especially infamous, believed to be haunted by a stonemason who died during the hotel's construction. Visitors claim to hear pounding from inside the walls and voices whispering in the dead of night. The basement, where Baker conducted many of his fake treatments, is now a hub of paranormal activity. Investigators have recorded voices, sudden temperature drops, and even full apparitions appearing and vanishing within seconds. The Crescent Hotel embraces its haunted reputation, offering ghost tours nightly. But many guests don't need a tour to experience something chilling. Because at the Crescent, history isn't just remembered, it's still alive. Number 9. Winchester Mystery House, San Jose, California. In San Jose, California, there's a mansion unlike any other, an architectural labyrinth filled with dead-end hallways, staircases to nowhere, and doors that open into walls. This is the Winchester Mystery House. The home was built by Sarah Winchester, widow of the rifle magnate William Wirt Winchester. After losing her husband and infant daughter, Sarah sought answers through a medium who told her she was cursed. The spirits of those killed by Winchester rifles were haunting her, and the only way to appease them was to keep building. So, for 38 years, construction never stopped. Day and night, hammering echoed through the halls. Sarah designed the house to confuse spirits. Doors open into thin air, windows overlook secret rooms, and staircases led straight into ceilings. Some say that ghosts still roam the house, lost in its twisting corridors. Visitors have reported hearing footsteps when no one is there, whispers behind closed doors, and the faint sound of a woman crying. One of the most active rooms is the seance room, where Sarah supposedly communicated with the spirits to get her next building instructions. The door only opens from the outside, and many report sudden cold spots and the feeling of being watched when standing inside. Today, the Winchester Mystery House is a major tourist attraction, but for those sensitive to the supernatural, it feels more like a trap, a place built for the dead, not the living. Number 10. Bobby Mackey's Music World, Wilder, Kentucky. Just outside of Cincinnati, in the quiet town of Wilder, Kentucky, sits Bobby Mackey's Music World, a honky-tonk bar by day and a portal to hell by night, according to some. Built on land with a grim history, the building was once a slaughterhouse in the 1800s. Beneath it lies a well, believed by many to be a gateway used in occult rituals. Over the decades, stories of murder, possession, and even exorcisms have stained this place with dark energy that never left. One of the most infamous legends involves Pearl O'Brien, a young woman murdered nearby in 1896. Her head was never found, and many believe her spirit still wanders the bar, crying out for justice. Some guests say they've heard a woman screaming in the basement, or felt a cold hand on their shoulder when no one was there. The current owner, country singer Bobby Mackey, has never believed in ghosts, but his staff tell a different story. Employees have been scratched, pushed, and even possessed during late-night closings. A former caretaker reportedly had an exorcism performed after claiming spirits tried to drag him into the well. Despite the hauntings, the bar is still open and active, but many paranormal investigators warn visitors. This is no ordinary haunting. Whatever's in the basement may not be human. Number 11. The Bell Witch Cave, Adams, Tennessee. In the quiet countryside of Adams, Tennessee, lies one of the most infamous paranormal legends in American folklore. the story of the Bell Witch. In the early 1800s, the Bell family began experiencing a terrifying presence on their farm. It started with knocking on the walls, then grew into voices, physical attacks, and even full-blown conversations with an invisible force. This wasn't just a ghost. It called itself Kate, and it hated John Bell. John Bell eventually died under mysterious circumstances. The witch even claimed responsibility, saying, "I gave Oil Jack a big dose of it last night." But even after the family left, the legend didn't fade. Near their original property sits the Bell Witch Cave, a dark, narrow cavern said to be where the enemy retreated and where it still lingers. Visitors to the cave have reported hearing growls from the shadows, seeing ghostly mist, and being touched or scratched by unseen hands. Some even feel an overwhelming sense of panic or dread, as if something is watching or waiting. Local legend warns against taking anything from the cave, even a small rock, as many who did later claim to experience haunting activity in their own homes. The Bell Witch is not a typical ghost story. It's one of the few hauntings in history with a witness, Andrew Jackson, who visited property and reportedly fled in fear. The cave still draws visitors and investigators from around the world. But some say, once you step inside, part of you never truly leaves. Number 12. Alcatraz Island, San Francisco, California. Surrounded by the cold waters of San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz Island was once home to one of America's most notorious prisons. A fortress of stone and steel where escape was nearly impossible, and the walls still remember the pain of those trapped inside. Operating from 1934 to 1963, Alcatraz housed some of the country's most dangerous criminals, including Al Capone and Machine Gun Kelly. Life inside was brutal. Isolation, violence, and hopelessness defined the daily routine. But some inmates never left. Even after death, Cell Block D, known as the Hole, was reserved for solitary confinement. Prisoners were locked in total darkness for days or weeks. Today, visitors report feeling extreme cold there, even on warm days. Some say they hear moaning footsteps and even screams echoing from cells that should be empty. One terrifying tale tells an inmate in cell 14D who screamed all night, claiming a creature with glowing eyes was in the cell with him. By morning, he was dead, strangled, with no explanation. Guards were shaken. They had heard the screams too. The spirit of Al Capone is also said to linger. In his later years, he feared ghosts himself, refused to leave the prison yard, and often play his banjo alone in the shower room. To this day, some visitors claim they hear faint banjo music drifting through the air. Alcatraz may be a museum now, but for many, it's more than just history. It's a place where sorrow, rage, and regret never left, where the echoes of the past continue to haunt the present. Number 13. The Lizzie Borden House, Fall River, Massachusetts. Lizzie Borden took an axe. The chilling rhyme has echoed for over a century, tied forever to one of America's most notorious unsolved murders. And the place where it all happened still stands, the Lizzie Borden House in Fall River, Massachusetts. On August 4th, 1892, Andrew and Abby Borden were found brutally murdered in their home. Their daughter, Lizzie, was the only suspect, accused of killing her stepmother with 18 blows, and her father with 11 more. She was arrested, tried, and ultimately acquitted. But the question remains, was she guilty? Today, the house operates as a bed and breakfast and a paranormal hotspot. Guests who stay in the same room where Abby Borden was murdered often report a heavy presence, cold spots, and the feeling of being watched. Some have even seen a woman in old-fashioned clothing standing at the top of the stairs, vanishing as they approach. The sound of footsteps, slamming doors, and even muffled weeping are frequently reported, especially late at night. Some say the spirit of Andrew Borden still lingers in the parlor, where he was found with his skull split open. And then there's Lizzie herself. While she maintained her innocence until her death, many believe her spirit may still reside in the house, forever tied to the mystery she never escaped. Whether you believe she was a cold-blooded killer or an innocent woman forever haunted by tragedy, one thing for sure, the Lizzie Borden house is more than just a crime scene. It's a place where the past refuses to stay buried. Number 14. Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In the heart of Philadelphia stands a massive, crumbling fortress of stone and silence, Eastern State Penitentiary. Once considered a revolutionary prison in the 1800s, it's now one of the most haunted places in America. Built in 1829, Eastern State introduced solitary confinement as a method of reform. Prisoners were kept alone in stone cells. No talking, no visitors, no sunlight. Meals were pushed through a small slot. Even hoods were placed over their heads when they left their cells to ensure complete isolation. The psychological damage was immense. And over time, the punishment turned into suffering, and the suffering into something that left a scar deeper than the crumbling walls. Visitors today report chilling encounters throughout the prison. Whispering voices echo through empty corridors. Cold spots linger in cell blocks, and shadows move where no light should cast. Cell Block 12 is notorious for disembodied laughter. Cell Block 4 for ghostly faces appearing suddenly. Some have even claimed to see full apparitions. Guards in old uniforms or prisoners pacing their cells, still serving time for crimes long past. One of the most disturbing legends involved a locksmith who was restoring a cell in the 1990s. As he removed an old lock, he was suddenly overwhelmed, claiming a force surged through him. He later described seeing shadowy figures rushing past, chains rattling, and a whispering chorus that he couldn't escape. Now in ruins, Eastern State draws in thousands each year. Thrill seekers, historians, and ghost hunters alike. But many leave with a feeling they can't explain, as if something followed them out. Because inside these walls, silence isn't just part of the past, it's still listening. Number 15. The Stanley Hotel, Estes Park, Colorado. Perched high in the Colorado Rockies, surrounded by endless pines and thin mountain air, stands the Stanley Hotel, a grand, colonial-style resort with a reputation for the paranormal that runs deeper than fiction. Opened in 1909 by inventor F.O. Stanley, the hotel was built to provide luxury to the elite. But long after the guests checked out, some spirits never did. The hotel's haunted reputation gained worldwide fame after author Stephen King stayed one night and had a terrifying dream of the son being chased through the long, empty hallways. That nightmare led him to write The Shining. And ever since, the Stanley has attracted believers, skeptics, and ghost hunters alike. Guests often report strange occurrences, lights turning on and off, children's laughter echoing through empty hallways, and the sound of the piano playing itself in the music room. Some claim to have seen the ghost of F.O. Stanley himself, still checking on the business he built. His figure appearing briefly at the top of the grand staircase before vanishing into thin air. Room 217 is the most famous, the very room where King stayed. Staff say it's haunted by a former housekeeper named Elizabeth Wilson, who was injured in a gas explosion in the early 1900s. She's known to unpack guest bags, straighten up the room, and tuck people in at night, gently but without asking. There's also the concert hall, where guests report hearing applause, laughter, and even catching glimpses of a man in a tuxedo watching from the wings. The basement, meanwhile, feels cold and unsettling, with strange shadows that move just out of view. If you enjoyed this journey into the haunted corners of America, give this video a like. And tell us, which of these places would you dare to visit or never step foot in? Don't forget to subscribe, because the next ghost story might be closer than you think. At the Stanley, the beauty of the mountain setting clashes with something unseen, as the thin air carries echoes from another world. Whether you're a fan of The Shining or a true believer in ghosts, one thing is certain: not everything that happens here can be explained.